Hello everyone. I'm Milindu and I'm from Sri Lanka and I'm a Google developer expert in Google Cloud and I'm working as a senior software engineer in Opio Health. So doing a session after a very long time, on-site event after a very, very long time. So bear with me. Yeah, okay. Right. All right. So I'm going to discuss about Google Cloud Endpoints, and also if I have time, I will go touch on API Gateway also, which is both very similar products, but I would say like Cloud Endpoints is what we had those days, and API Gateway is something we have new. I mean, not very new, but it's there also. So if you are familiar with Cloud Endpoints, you can definitely work on Cloud API Gateway. So that's why I will go with Cloud Endpoints and I will show how you can go with API Gateway. So it's very similar and very simple, right? Cool? All right. Okay. Awesome. All right. So what is Cloud Endpoints? So I'm sure you all have seen, yep, this once in a while if you have been working with Google Cloud platform, right? So this is where you enable all the Google APIs in Google platform. So if you want to work with some of the APIs Google has provided you, you will go here and you will click one of these and say enable. So this will enable Google endpoints to your project, right? So what are we going to do is in the same way, can I publish some endpoint to this portal like this? So ping service via cloud endpoints on Cloud Run. I deployed it while I was like just getting ready for this one. So what I'm going to do is today show you how we can do the same. So anyone you share this endpoint, this service with, because this is a private service, can do the same thing. Go to their project, click this and click enable and use that service you are publishing in their projects. So this is like you are creating, let's say your organization has different departments and your department is hosting one service which you would like other departments to use in their project. So what you can do is host your service in Cloud Endpoints or API Gateway and let them use this service as a service. So what I'm going to show you is how to deploy it and how we can let them authorize using API keys. And also I'm going to show you how you can add quota. So you will see how many requests coming per minute and how you can enable, how you can limit people accessing your API very fast. All right. So that's the whole agenda. So I will go through one by one because I don't have any slides anymore. This is my end of the slides, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the Cloud Endpoints documentation the Google has given you. So then when you want to try it, also you will feel it familiar, right? Because you know I went through the same thing, right? So before going into that, I would just show you this diagram because the backend is the API that you want to publish to other services, other endpoints, right? So other departments. And this ESP2 is extensible service proxy is the guy that actually works as the API gateway, right? So what are we going to do is I have this backend Cloud Run already running. So I will show in my console. It's already there. It's simple Node.js API, which has a one endpoint called ping. So when you go to the ping, it will say pong, right? That's it. So I'm going to deploy the ESP2 and I'm going to show how we can register the cloud endpoints in the cloud endpoints, and then we will proceed from that. All right? Yeah? Right, cool. Okay, so the same document, same diagram I showed you, right? Right. So I will first show you the endpoint I have here. This is the endpoint that I'm going to expose to the world, like I said in my title. right? And if I go to ping endpoint, I'll get a response saying pong, right? This is simple API, right? So now what I'm going to do is uh, follow the documentation, right? So the first part is about deploying the API I showed you, but I will skip that part. And this is the most important one. So I'm sure if you have worked with any kind of API in any language, you might have come across something called Swagger, right? The Swagger API documentation, right? So this is a Swagger YAML, which once you like some in one way or another, you generate the Swagger documentation, and you can get this from Swagger actually. So the you can see I am giving a name, Cloud Endpoints plus Cloud Run here, and some small description. So these two will be the title of my service in the API portal I showed you earlier, and the description for that. So everything is very normal Swagger documentation and stuff. Only thing that I'm going to do is at the host, which is this, and the X Google backend. So as you can see, what I'm going to do is I am telling the API cloud endpoints, all right, I have a Swagger documentation which describe my API, and I want you to um, direct all the requests to this particular backend service in my cloud run, and this will be the host name for you, right? So when Google see this API spec, it will understand how to forward the request coming from the outside of the world to my service, right? All right. Okay. So I have my API spec here. All right. And then what I'm going to do is add these two guys. Okay. I hope I had a mouse somewhere. Oops. Right. And then this guy over here. Right. But what are the values for these two? So the first thing is the backend service. Of course, we know that one. So I will go here and I get to this, right? And I copy this URL. So this will be the actual backend that we want the request to go. Okay. I think I skipped one guy here. All right. Okay, the host name. So this is something important. So this is the actual endpoint the people will be sending the request to. So for this, we need to do some kind of a trick. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a simple Docker container, which is not any important thing. It's just some Docker container, and get a host name like what I have here. And then Google has provided a script which I can run that, and then I will get a Docker image pushed to my cloud Docker registry, and I'm going to use that as the API gateway. All right. So I will go through that part. So, all right. Right. So I'm going to use the commands they have provided me here. For my ease, I will first get the values to the document. Sorry, this is actually not my machine, so a little bit harder for me. Right. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Cloud Endpoints, okay, read this Open API run YAML and understand and get things ready for me, right? All right. Okay, I think I'll open a new tab. It's easy. Any questions up to this point? Anyone? All right. Okay, so you can see I have my um, Open API YAML here. Yep, right. Yes. All right. So this is the step that I'm going to run that empty container I said. This is like some demo endpoint content they have given, which is Cloud Run Hello. So I'm going to run this guy. This is just to acquire that service name, and I will be putting that name to here. That's my target. All right. So I hope I'm clear on my steps, right? Okay. So I will because I have it here like demo this. I'm going to name it the gateway. Right. So I'm trying to get this name uh, and deploy some container with this name. All right. Okay. Okay. I'm going to choose your central 126. All right. So that dummy container is getting deployed. So nothing fancy happening here. It's just some container getting deployed because I wanted that name. That's the reason I'm doing this. All right. Okay. Let's give some time to this one. Okay. All right. So I got the name and it's running here because if you go here, you won't see that dummy application running. So it's all good. All right. So then I will come down, and now I know the name for this guy. The value for this guy, right? Which is um, this. Now I have the name, so I will get it. Okay. Yep. It's easy for me to fill the thing because the below commands will get automatically filled. So I'm going to do the same here. Okay. So, right. Okay. Now we are ready to deploy this endpoint. Uh, this to endpoints. So I'm saying endpoints service deploy this my YAML. So because I have everything completed here, but make sure that this is the gateway name and this is the actual backend. Um, hmm. Yep, I deleted the one service sometimes back. Am I on the wrong project? Yes, I think. Nope. Live. Sorry about that. Wrong project. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, I think I messed up the first command also. Okay, let me close all the other ones. I'm sorry, guys. Da, da, da. Live. Okay, deploying again. 26. Yeah. So last night I was doing this again and see getting ready. So I created one project and I deleted that, but I forgot to switch the project to the correct project. That's why what happened. Okay. So I have it in 31 live one. So I have done now two. So I will get this guy. Okay. Right. Put it here. And the backend is this. Okay. This works. Okay. It's going on. It's going on. Meanwhile, I will go to Cloud Endpoints, which is here. Okay, nothing yet. Okay, waiting. Any questions up to this point? Do you have anything to clarify or anything? Okay, I'm now wondering why this take this much time today. Okay, it's appearing little by little. Still waiting here. Why? Uh, okay. So this is kind of your dashboard for your endpoint. So the name I gave in Swagger as the title here is now appearing in my API endpoints as a service name here. And you can see there's no quota because I didn't define any quotas yet. And you can see I have only one deployment, which is this one. And you can see all the requests, metrics, everything in this dashboard. So I'm not going to go there. So what now going to do is, all right. So we now told Google, okay, there will be a service like endpoint like this, and get ready. So now I'm going to deploy the proxy, the actual ESP. So when I hit this endpoint, the actual request will come to my service through the proxy. All right. So let's go on that. So please note there are some things that we have to uh, notice from here, which is okay. You have cleared it out, right? It's okay. Yeah, I deployed, and if the log was there, I will see the config ID here in the log. So I will get that config ID, which will be this actually, this revision. So it's okay. I know what it's going to be. So it will look like this, right? And this is the service, the the service host URL I gave, right? Okay. So, and what I have to do is there are some APIs I have to enable. I actually did this while getting ready, so it's okay. So the next thing, okay, this is the interesting part, because now we have the API here. We can actually go to API and services, enable API and services, and go to private and see my endpoint there. Is this the new one I created? The old one. Oh, yeah, this is the new one. Okay. So my endpoint is now published, so anyone can access, but it won't work yet because the proxying is not working yet. But I can enable this API now, so I'm going to enable it. All right. It will take some time. It's okay. Okay, so this is the part where we have to deploy the proxy. So what I'm going to do is they have given this script, which is a big kind of a big script. So yeah, it's okay. So I have this script copied to my repo here. What I'm going to do is grant it the execution permission, and I'm going to build the image and push to the cloud repo, cloud container registry. Okay, config ID is actually this. Come on. Right. Okay. Okay, now what's happening is now they are building the Docker. Uh, okay. Yep, wrong URL. Okay, it's going. Yeah, I'm being tortured again and again for having two different projects. So I copied the correct gateway URL, the host name here. So I'm telling use this version and use this as the host name, and this is the project. So now it's building the image for me. The proxy is going on. Okay, so I got my image pushed to GCR, and here this is the version, something to note, and also this. All right. Okay. Then let's deploy the proxy container here, right? The ESP version is this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is basically the image which we just pushed to the ECR. So I'm going to deploy this in Cloud Run now. This is just a deploy in Cloud Run. So now the gateway will get deployed with the actual gateway, the proxy. So let's wait for that for a second. So in the document, they are mentioning some other commands like the IAM policy binding and stuff. But because we did not use the service account flag, we don't have to go there. So they are mentioning about that. So it's okay. Okay. Let's wait for okay. I think it's working. Right. Yes. So this is actually coming from the API gateway. So now we can enable this API in other projects, and people can ping, people can use my service in their project. So I will show you quickly like how it will look in other project. Because all these three projects belong to same organization, they will have this uh, across. Otherwise, you can share the IAM permission, and anyone can have this API accessed. So this is the one I just created. This is the old one I created yesterday. So they can now enable my API. Now I just deployed, and they can use that API in their services. All right. Okay. After a long run, we came to some point which is like we had the first step done. So anyone can now use my API without an issue. So this is open API, so no one has to create any kind of authentication token or anything. Is openly available. Anyone can use that. Only thing you have to have the project shared to you via IAM permission, right? So this is it. All right. So now the thing is like as developers, we like to have API tokens, right? So all the services we query, we give an API token and we get the responses. So that's what I'm going to do now. So what I'm going to do, you can have different authentication. It could be Firebase authentication. It could be Google authentication, and they have given different ways of authenticating. But I think the fancy way, if it is like service to service communication, is using the API keys. So I'm going to do that. And here, what I'm going to do is add some um API key authentication to my API. Okay, so it is mentioned here, right? So the thing is, we just has to put this as the base configuration, all right, which is here. This is telling Google, okay, the authentication mechanism is API key, and my key will come in the URL as a query param called key. The thing is, it have to be key or API key, and it could be in the query or it could be in the header. But if it is in the header, there's a different name for that. So it's all mentioned in the documentation, but I'm going to use with this approach. So I'm going to put my API token in the URL as key equals my token. That's my approach. Okay. All right. Okay. So now either I can disable access to all the endpoints in my service, or I can do it one by one. So this is the guy we had to put. So if I put this on the global context, it will be all the API endpoints that is protected, and nobody can access without the API key for all the endpoints. But if I put this under one particular API definition, API endpoint definition, Cloud Shell, like here, if I put this here, only this endpoint will be protected against the API calls without API key, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the global context. I mean, out of all the other stuff, right? Okay, what happened? Okay, so now everything should be protected, all the endpoints in my API spec. So let's deploy. So the thing is, now we have to tell Google about the new API spec, and also we had to deploy the API gateway again. So this is one downside I see in Google Cloud Endpoints, which is not in the API gateway, because API gateway does everything under the hood. I think that's how it goes there. But let's do it this way, so we know what's happening even in the Cloud API gateway, right? So I'm first going to tell about the new um, API spec. Yes. This will take a small time, I hope. Yep. So this will actually publish a new version in the cloud endpoints. Like I showed earlier, it will come on the versions, and then we will get that version ID. It will be the previous one plus one. Um, and then we will deploy the proxy again, the API gateway. Any question up to this point? All good? Okay. Whose first physical session after Corona happened? Oh, everyone has been to physical sessions. Okay. Few saying yes. Okay. Okay. It's good to have these kind of setups, right? Okay. Good news. It went through. So earlier it was R0 and now it's R1. So let's deploy this guy also to Cloud Run. I will change here. Everything else is same. It's just this version that is going to get changed to R1. Okay, 26 is our region. Oh, oh. Okay, I did a mistake. I had to build this first. Ah, yes. Yep, I will build the image first because otherwise I can't deploy. I forgot that part. Okay. Okay. Yep. Now I'm deploying. Honestly, I was wondering why we had to do all this stuff. And okay. Okay. What happened? What's this? Okay. All right. Yes. So now because the authentication is there, if I call this without authentication, it will say unauthenticated. So this is like kind of the security layer we added just now. So let's see now how we can or anyone can call my API now, right? So what they can do is, so I will go to this other project, assuming like I'm a separate person who's going to consume my API. Yep. I will go to API and services, enable API and services, and go to my service, which, okay, and I enable it earlier. So I will go here and I will come to credentials. Here, you can create an API key. I earlier created some API keys. I will create one now again. Nope. Yeah, create credentials, API key. Okay, so I got the API key. This is how a developer who's going to use my API going to get the API key, and then how I can. We have Postman. Okay. Okay, I had Postman on my machine. Now this one I don't have Postman. So, but you get the idea, right? If you call the API using if you okay, never mind, my bad. It's in query. I can do this, right? So I gave the key. Luckily, this time I deployed as a key in the query, not in the header. So I can just append the key to the URL. So I could do it on the browser. Earlier, like I used Postman for that, but anyway, it's okay. So now the thing is, everyone who used this API key is tracked. So I can tell this person call this API 3 times or 4 times. So I know who called and how many times they called, right? So now I can set quotas for each person for each API query. So that is our next step. What are we going to do is, depending on the time, I will just show or I will try to deploy, hoping nothing will go wrong again. Hey, that's your cue to tell me the time. Okay, so I will go to the quotas. Yep. How much time I have more? Okay. So what are we going to do here is we had to do kind of 3 things. We had to first define the metric. So we can say, okay, I will give some name like API requests, and I will give some fancy name as display name. So I'm telling this is a integer 64, and I'm checking the deltas. So it's like that, and then I will define the limit. So this first guy is a metric who is calculating this particular thing. It could be the request count or anything, and this guy is the one who is define the limit, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this and put it here. All right. Okay. I will name this requests. Okay. So now I have defined the metric, and then I will define the quotas. Okay. The metric should be the same one we defined here. So the name of the metric, I'm going to use it here. So here, oh no. Sorry. Mac refreshed, I think, when I do some gesture. So, I mean, I will add the metric and I will define the quota here. And then I can do one thing, some fancy thing. So let's assume your API has three different API calls, API endpoints, and one endpoint is very expensive. So I want to charge double for people who call that endpoint. So what I can do is I can put this under one endpoint and say this will actually cost two API requests, not one. All right. So I can say requests is two. So Google will count this if it gets a call for this endpoint, it will count the request as two requests. So that is one cool thing I see here, because if you have some like heavy endpoints, you can do it there. Okay, you have defined it a long way down. Come on. Right. I will replace this too. Okay, all good. And yeah, I will put this here under my only endpoint. So now this will count as one. Read requests, because my name is read requests here. Now I'm going to publish my API spec again to the Google Cloud endpoints. Right. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. So, I mean, you got the idea, right? So what you can do is you can define quotas for each and every endpoint, and then you can like if I call this endpoint multiple times, when I have the quotas, it will say, okay, now you have exceeded the quota, so you can't make any calls until this particular time. So that's what's going to happen there. I think like this is basically what we want for endpoint, right? We have an endpoint deployed and we have an endpoint published, so anyone can use that endpoint, and then anyone who is using this endpoint should create credentials and use that credentials to access my endpoint, so which is secure. And also I have API called request limits, so it's like protected against the DDoS attacks and stuff also. So this is kind of the basic setup for Google endpoints, right? And then I told you like there's a new guy in the town, right? So this API gateway is also something which does the similar things. I will go there. Okay. Yep. I will enable some APIs and it's there. Right. So with this, we actually don't have to create that ESP2 proxy. So we don't have to create the proxy image again and again and deploy to GCR and deploy that as a separate service in Cloud Run. So everything will be done by the Google API Gateway itself. But the thing is, everything I showed you here, the API spec, it is still same. Only thing is this host property is not needed because it's handled by the Google itself. So the same thing you saw today about the backend and the API management, the metrics defining, the API keys, it's still valid. It's going to be the same thing. If I remove this line and upload to the Google Cloud Endpoint API Gateway, it will work as a new API Gateway. So just try it out. You can create new API and upload your API spec here from the browser itself. So it's very pretty easy. Just try it out, and there's a way to deploy the same thing in commands. So I just want to show you some parts, so some stuff here and there, so you can try it on your own. Hope that did some addition to your knowledge. So that's it. All right. Thanks all.